Cool. Um, so the watermark that you guys are seeing now, the people viewing, right? That's one of the solutions for having like the Zooms be recorded live, right? Which that hasn't been done, but just to avoid that. And so the watermark shows your email, but also if you screen record, each audio is different for every person, so it has an audio watermark. So it's literally no way of recording this and somehow leaking it. Right? There's no possible way. Other than that, we're doing the same thing to the website, and then the website we have other analytics that'll give us information, meaning you actually can't share logins now. That's why it's taking so long, because we're adding a lot of cool stuff, and I'll have a lot of cool content ready by then. I actually went back today. I went through the whole RCV course, advanced, well, pretty much intermediate, advanced 1, advanced 2. The Wyckoff section, I don't think needs any improvement. I think I did pretty decent on that. I think that'll be cool, leaving it like that. But I did see some holes in the rest of the stuff, so I'm gonna make sure I fix everything that I know I missed out on. And then obviously I've grown as a trader in these past 6 months, because RCV just turned 6 months 4 days ago. RCV turned 6 months 4 days ago. So as I improve, the course is going to improve, the content is going to improve, right? So 6 months isn't really the biggest milestone. I'm looking forward to a year, though. I really want to see where members are after a year, especially a couple of the people that joined right off the bat. There's a couple of people I need to make sure that they're doing good. But yeah, that's happening. The material is getting fixed. Not necessarily fixed, just getting adding on to. I'm sorry it's taking so long, but we're doing the best that we can. Like literally, we're doing the best that we can. But yeah, other than that, go ahead and get started. Cool. So DXY. Ooh, why is this being laggy? Why? Hold on. I think I can fix that. So on my monitor, since it's a ultra wide and I just connect my MacBook, I learned that since I always have my screen zoomed out on the monitor, it gets super laggy. Like I can't even like do anything. So the solution was zooming in. So hopefully this helps you guys more too, and then it also makes it more smoother for me. Even though it looks, I hate how it looks that big, right? But it doesn't look like it's making much of a difference, so we'll keep it here. So overall, right, we've kept the bias, right, with EU, and the reason why I was trying to stay away from it is because potentially that bullish bias on dollar, right, looked very probable, especially yesterday. I don't remember exactly what it was. I just think that honestly I forgot what happened with yesterday, but as I've stated before, right, intraday structure has been intact, right, and that's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about these, right? So the only concerning thing here is the momentum, right? But just because there's momentum doesn't necessarily mean there's a trend shift, right? Especially when the bias is down, momentum is down, even structure itself is down, right? Because the same thing we're seeing here, we've already seen here, right? And what happened here, right? So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying it's possible that it can happen. So acknowledging that, right, helps us support the bias that this can continue lower, because we have every reason to believe so, right? So looking at EU, hold on. Nope. Got it. So going on to EU. Oh, fuck. He loves to do that right in front of my window. I think he's learning that that I use this, so like he doesn't like do it as like he still does it even if he hears this. All right, I think we're good. All right, I think we're good. Anyways, right, when we're looking at EU now, right, the exact derivative of dollar, right, we see that technically this structure has been tested and there is a liquidity grab here, right? And the only thing now, right, the only way that this is going to essentially start to move up is if we find a solidified low that creates a higher high here, right? So my bias is up, right? But structure is technically shifting down, but as a whole, even if I was wanting to sell, right, I want to sell in a premium here, right? So I want to sell in a premium, right? So this buy, even though it's technically counter trend, not from a macro basis, but more so from an intraday basis, right? Technically counter trend. I'd be willing to risk anywhere inside of this discount, right, to then take it higher, because there's always the possibility to hedge. There's always the possibility that we break structure, right, and then any continuation here is another reentry, right? So in theory, right, you need to wait for that to be in a bullish bias. But for the overall high RR scenario, right, a discount here would be lovely, and then go from there. And when we're looking at the actual 15-minute structure here, right, this looks very familiar. I don't know if you guys are seeing this, like the way that I'm seeing this, but this looks very familiar, right? What does that look like? Are y'all seeing this, or am I tripping? Are y'all seeing this? All right, does this not look like? Does this not look like that? Right? Am I tripping? Right, that's cool, right? Right, that's pretty much what I'm trying to get into is like tendencies. She like literally, right? Price is fractal in nature in terms of SCs and efficiencies respect themselves, but not exactly. But not every pair does the exact same sequences, right? So these sequences are tendencies that I try to pick up on, right? And I've been seeing them a lot lately. I don't know if it's because I've acknowledged them, right? So hopefully you guys can acknowledge them now. But this looks just like that, right? So in theory, right? In theory, if we get any type of rejection, M1 structure break, anything in a deeper discount, long, 100%, right? But it always depends on the reaction, right? And also finding a POI, right? Like obviously I'd love to see something inside that candle there. They're struggling there before the impulsive move, so I'd definitely like to see something anywhere, right? So just want that reaction. Yeah, the sound difference, yeah, I'm pretty sure I sound different to some of you. But yeah, that's EU. Honestly, this would happen during London, so unfortunately I probably won't even catch it. Who knows, maybe set a limit, who knows. But EG, right, this is something that we've been tracking for the past, since the high here, since the 11th of September. It's been a month that we've been looking at this, right? And we mentioned, right, that this still looks corrective as fuck, right? So, all right, so, right, the only obstacle that I saw is the inefficient pricing here, and we've already rejected 50%, and we're now heading our way until the completion of that, right? So I definitely see us at least tapping that before wrecking our bias, or before giving us the full move, right? So technically structure is bullish, right? But in terms of overall monthly, in 15 days, this might be a very good 2-month closure, right? Very good monthly closure. We had a very good daily closure yesterday, right? And I'm going to explain this whole scenario right now. But, right, very bearish move. So now tomorrow's closure is very, very crucial, because if we get a bullish closure tomorrow, we might see a very bullish closure to the week, and that's bad, right? But if we close anything how it is now, I think we're straight. I personally think we're straight. We can easily head down to fill inefficient pricing here, even take out this target here. But my main target is these equal lows, right? My main initial swing target, right, which is about 92, 88, about 400, 300, 400 pips. So that's happening right before our eyes, hopefully. As for the move today, right, here's what we have to understand, right? Right, the same thing with DXY, right? From an intraday basis, none of this, right? Every time we look at structural points, none of them have been broken. Liquidity grab wasn't broken, right? Mitigation of the liquidity grab wasn't broken. And the mitigation of the liquidity grab was not broken, which was today's move. And that led to a lower low. So honestly, I don't see this coming back to retrace pretty high anymore, right? Especially because of this big impulsive move, even though there's technically an efficiency there, I would really love to see a continuation, right? Because this not only solidifies the bias, but in theory, if we reach back up this high after not wanting to break lows, you know, substantially, then there could be a very change in bias, right? So these moves have all been accounted for each other. So in theory, right, in terms of how smart money works, right, the transition from buys to sells has already happened everywhere for the most part, right? Personally, I'd love to see any type of retracement to take lower, but this move happened right at the open. Sorry, right at the open of our London session last night. And I'm going to note that right here. London Open, right there. Something I've been noticing is London Open is almost as good as New York Open. Honestly, it looks even better. Something you guys can go test out. All right. So when we looking left, I'm going to get right to the point. I'm not going to waste time here. Right, we're seeing, right, this was that move that we talked about last week. I remember that we talked about this last week, right? In terms of from a Wyckoff perspective, right, pre-supply, selling climax, secondary test, pretty much an upthrust or UTAD if I'm reading that right, more throw upthrust, LPSY, and then, right, so I'd consider that more of a schem 2. Depending on how you read it, you could easily see that as a preliminary supply here, buying climax, upthrust, right, no secondary test phase B, and you can consider that a UTAD. So either way, it's fine, right, as long as you acknowledge that the schematic is there. And also that we had this large wick here, right, that signified the essential UTAD, right? So let me see if I can show you guys that. No, so it's not going to show. It's going to show it as a bullish volume. I don't want to go in seconds time frame for that, right? But you get the point here, right? So looking prior to this big move, right? This is my last candle, correct? Right, it takes out that wick, and then that's where the big move starts, right? On top of that, there's inefficient pricing right there. Inefficient pricing right there. Cool. So that's my candle of interest off the bat. It's as high as it can be, but it's not at the high of the range, right? So it's not too deep of a retracement for me to second guess it, right? So mark out the open, mark out the close, right? And it's not about essentially setting a limit there. It's more so seeing the reaction that occurs there in this POI. Okay, I'm gonna put 1 right there for the inefficiency fill, just as a reference point, nothing crucial. So analyzing here, right? Something I'm heavily gonna get into with the new content is definitely getting into structural ranges and structural anatomy and really understanding structure. I didn't go in depth in that. I honestly really thought that would be something that most people knew before coming in here, right? Because it's something I naturally see, so I didn't naturally point it out. Right, so looking at our structural points here from an intraday basis, this is the last, any type of last pullback here, created the final move up, and on a 5 minute, right, this is, remember you guys showed me this, cool. So looking here, you see this is the last push down from my last high, meaning this is my intraday range, right? So right, technically structure doesn't break until that low breaks, right? So that doesn't mean, right, that is the absolute crucial point, right? But acknowledging that is that any micro BOS, that's annoying, hold on. Any micro BOS, right, or any scalp BOS, right, could only be the pullback for this, right? But we're reacting from our POI. We now have a micro break of structure. We now have a scalping break of structure. Micro, because this is more so a seconds time frame move. And then from a scalping perspective, this is the last scalp low before that high. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to get into it more later on. But those are now taken, right? And looking at volume here, right? Right, as we're going higher, right, diminishment of volume, instability causes reaction off of a major POI. That's a bias derived from our monthly bias, weekly bias, daily bias, H4 bias, right? Because we've already discussed that before. So diminishment of volume, right, causes a reaction, right? So we've now gotten a reaction from our POI. So even though it's still risky, I'm going to take this risk. Right, I'm sorry, I'm going to go from here. Right, do you guys understand why I'm coming from here first? Right, I'm going to acknowledge both ranges. Right, so what I'm seeing here is push down, retracement, continuation. But this is now my high and my low. Right, so best case scenario, I get, an entry inside of this range. And if I don't, it would be somewhere up here. Right, but I took my scenario based off of this high and this low. This created this range, right? Then a premium pullback, right? The trade was that wick there because I'm seeing, right, one last wick. This could have mitigated that wick. This could have mitigated that wick, and then this wick could have mitigated that wick, right? But just to be safe, your SL is right above that. All right, right above that high. Right, so execution, right? Now this is your full-on break of structure, right? Looking here, down here, a range, right? The only POI that even seems relatively decent here is that inefficiency fill there, even though it's not in a premium, right? It still supports the structure break and the overall bias, right? So technically this, right, to be safe, I would have needed to do the same thing here, and this would have been a wider stop. Yeah, right, so 3.5. This would have been like a 3.5 pip here, right? So just like that, these can easily roll over because we've now had our structure break, right, on a scalping basis, right? And then after this entry, we now have the full structure break, the full intraday structure break, I'm sorry, intraday structure break here, because this is that point that I acknowledged previously, all right? And after that, you saw the meltdown. right? And obviously the targets from an intraday basis are at lows because we're still continuing trend. Keep that in mind, right? And just like that, both entries doing very well. Right, both entries doing very, very well. Look at how much effort is taking. How much effort is taking us here. Right, just give me a spike, break a structure, and then hopefully take that lower. Right, but the bias is the same. We have no reason to think otherwise. And other than that, I think that's all I got for today, honestly. That wick looks nice. Yeah, it does. That's why I'm signifying there. Hint, hint. Mind breaking down GU. I haven't seen GU, but it's the same. It's the same bias as EG, but the opposite way, right? So technically, right, from a intraday perspective, right, this momentum should signify that from an intraday basis, this is broken structure, but lower highs, right? So last lower high, the last solidified high before we made the entire move up, right? Disregarding the intraday moves here, right? This has been maintained, right? So it's the same thing here, right? It's supporting the overall reaccumulation bias that Coase posted for us, right? That would be a really dope play if that actually makes it up there. And the more that we stall, the more that we move up, the more confident I'll be to do that, because technically from rules of impulse correction, which this could be impulse correction impulse, or the only way that's going to be negated is if obviously overall structure is maintained, which it has, or if even if you get that corrective structure, right, if you get solid order flow movement to the upside, structured movement to the upside, that's what will lead to this being taken out, and that would be a dope swing. All right, I haven't really been getting into positions anywhere here, sadly, right? But after all of these mitigations, if we actually come back for a deeper tracement, I really don't know if this will have the overall volume behind it to actually take out highs and actually start challenging these other highs, previous highs. So even though technically this is break of structure from a swing basis, right, the overall has been up, right? And also keep in mind, this is our last structure point before our final low. That's already been taken, right? So technically this entire range is meant for buy scenarios, this entire discount, and that's what we got, right? So I know Coase is in from the bottom, lucky motherfucker, because that's the potential there is insane. But yeah, other than that, do you guys have any questions? Anybody? I sound a little rushed because I'm tired. And I gotta wake up at 5 tomorrow. Same, haven't taken partials yet. Tomorrow's reaction will give you a lot. It will tell you a lot. Tomorrow's New York will definitely tell you a lot. But yeah, other than that, does anybody have any questions? Early morning gym grind. Yes, bro. I leave the gym before the sun's up. That's how it has to be. Sometimes higher lows confuse me. How? Where?
Like right there on GU, like where it broke those like lower highs, I would just assume like that like the structure is changing, you know?
You have to think overall. You have to think overall, right? So look at when the impulses happen, right? One move to the upside. Technically, this entire move is one leg, right? That's in one move. That's whole one move, and then this is the beginning of the correction, and I'm judging that correction based off of this momentum that's coming. All right, so it's one move down, and then this is the last move, that creates that new structural point. So this is now your structural range. Right, so as long as this doesn't break, technically you're still in bullish structure. Right, even if you come back into a pretty deep retracement, there is a ton of momentum there. Right, so personally, I'd like to see some of that be recovered and then go higher. But yeah, it's all focusing on essentially when new structural highs or lows occur. Right, in an uptrend, you want to pay attention to when higher highs are formed, and in a downtrend, you want to pay attention to when lower lows are formed. So clearly, that's a higher high. Right, so any retracement technically be a pullback for another impulse higher. Right, even if this was steep, it was quick.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, market structure is pretty tough to explain. Have to understand speed, timing, and obviously actual structure points. But yeah, it really all just depends on tonight's reaction, right? Because this could easily just give one wick up and then just start melting, right? With the targets being relative equal lows, right? So the reaction tonight and tomorrow morning is crucial. But my bias is the same from an overall standpoint, so I'm not too worried. But yeah, other than that, I mean, let's see. When is a good time to take partials? Depends on your trading plan, but since I'm always pro trend, my partials are usually at structural points. Right, so let's say I'm in this position here. My partials would have been anywhere when we start testing that previous intraday high. Right, like that EG. Right, since I'm in here, my initial target is obviously previous low based off of structure. Right, so it doesn't matter what structure is, entries here, partials here, right? Because then you want to theoretically catch a pullback and then take a partial at that newest low. Right, that's typically how I go about it. And depending on what kind of trade you're in, depends on what kind of targets you have. Right, so I'm a swing. So I'm swinging this. I'm holding these like for a minute. So the first times that I'm gonna take partials are pretty steep. Right, so this is already a 42-ish, 45-ish.
Makes sense, bro. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's see.
And like, what percentage would you like take out for?
Depends on you, bro. We've mentioned that before, I believe. Honestly, that varies based on your account size, and it's up to you, right? I'm not gonna take. I'll take 50% off a smaller account, but I'm not gonna take 50% off of a massive account, right? I'm up 20,000. I'm not gonna take out 10,000. I'm good with taking out 5,000, so I'm gonna take out 5,000, right? But if I'm up 200, I'm not gonna be up. I'm willing to take away 100 because that's worth my time, right? So it's up to you. Early morning gym grind. Nice gems tonight. Thanks. Yeah, I just try to get to the point. You guys know me. I try to get to the point. Hate ranting on. Even though I do it sometimes in the course because I just rewatch the course. So my bad. Do you guys have any more questions? Solid 30 minutes. I didn't think that was that long, honestly. I thought that was like 20 minutes. You talk about the XY? Yeah, at the beginning, bro. I'm gonna upload this immediately after I'm done, though. Right, but just make sure you rewatch it because it was pretty cool. Pretty cool. Oh, we got the goat in here. We got the goat in here. Yeah, man, no worries. Dude. But yeah, other than that, I think we can end it off here. All right, guys. I'll see you guys Saturday morning, and then we'll pick up from there.